Hello, welcome. Here we are. Today we are going to be filming a 24-hour reading vlog because I have a 3-day weekend, which doesn't happen super often, but does happen every once in a while, and I decided that I want to take full advantage of the opportunity to basically just read nonstop for 3 days. I have decided that I'm gonna do this in the way that I've seen a few people do, where instead of reading for 24 hours straight, I'm going to attempt to sort of time it out so that the total amount of time spent reading adds up to 24 hours. So in theory, this would mean reading like 8 hours a day across 3 days. So what is the plan for today? Currently, I have a video that is almost ready to go. I have uploaded it to YouTube, but I still have to do my thumbnail and description and all of that stuff. I'm gonna finish that up. I'm gonna get ready for the day, and then my plan is just to read. I'm gonna tell you about the books that I'm reading so far. Okay, here's all the books that I'm currently in the middle of reading. So, as you know, I've mentioned it 10 million times. I'm in the middle of Les Mis. If you don't know this, I'm in the middle of Les Mis. I would really like, if possible, to chip away at least a couple chapters of this during my 24-hour reading adventures. I have been on page 297 for a couple months now. Brain go too slow for reading classic literature at the moment. I mentioned previously that I just got the audiobook and I have not used it yet, but I don't know. I'm excited. I want to start chipping away at this book. So I would like to at least read a little bit of this during the 24-hour reading. I'm also currently in the middle of Blue Crown, which is the third Green Glass House story. Green Glass House is this book series. It's very fun, and I've been reading this series over the last couple months, and I am just over halfway, so I would really like to finish this today and then move on to something else. And then I'm also in the middle of Map Makers and the Lost Magic. This is a middle grade graphic novel that I just picked up from the library, and I'm also about halfway in this one. I have the other 2 books in the series as well, so this should be pretty easy to fly through during this, you know. I'm a big fan of graphic novels to help me keep my momentum going. And then the last book I'm in the middle of is The Autists, Women on the Spectrum by Clara Tornval. If I'm butchering your name, I'm so sorry. But this is a memoir about an autistic woman who's talking about presumably her own experience. I'm on page 9, so I'm not very far into it, but even just in the first chapter, I was like, So I'm excited to keep reading this. This is actually the first time I've talked all day, and my voice is a little bit like bleh. So I am gonna go and work on my video, which you will have already seen. The plan is to read. I am going to develop a system for keeping track of how long I've been reading. I'll check back in a little bit. Welcome to the vlog. I'm currently waiting for my video to render for the second time. So earlier when I was like, I'm gonna go fix my video really quick and then I'll be ready to read, it's been like 4 hours. For some reason, with the newest update of Final Cut Pro, things have changed and I now need to find a new way to render my videos. Everything was fine until I uploaded it to YouTube and scheduled it, and then I went to go watch it to make sure everything was okay, and I'm glad that I did because the colors are super weird, like it looks like I have a filter on it, and I do not want that. But we're gonna see if there's a way. Oh, bless you. If it was super desaturated and weird looking, then you know that I failed, and I tried my best. It's gonna be okay. I just have to wait like 15 minutes, so you know what? While I'm waiting for that, I'm gonna read and maybe make some food because I haven't really eaten that much today, because I've been doing this. But in other words, this is my fit for the day. I'm wearing my bug shirt. You can't have a bad day when you're wearing a bug shirt. And my mushroom socks, because you also can't go wrong with mushroom socks. Hello. You're beautiful. Boop. What's up? It's me again. I have an update on the YouTube situation. Turns out the problem was that I needed to change my export settings on Final Cut Pro. Apparently, it's not just me, and other people have this problem also, specifically when they're shooting on their iPhone. So basically, like, the only real solution is I need to not shoot on my iPhone anymore. Ironically, since Final Cut can only be used on a Mac, you'd think that it would be okay with using iPhone footage, but apparently not. I think, like, the main thing here is just that I really need to, like, get a better way to film. I mean, I don't like my footage being this low quality. I'm gonna keep trying to fix this to make sure that my future uploads look better, but the real solution is just to get a new camera, and I can't afford to do that right now, so I'm sorry. You will have to be okay with slightly bad footage for a little while. I know other people film on their phones and don't have any problem with it, so I don't know why I seem to have a problem. I'm gonna keep looking into it and keep trying to fix it. Hopefully this video won't have any problems. Editing me is gonna chime in now and be like, I just finished Blue Crown. It took me about, I want to say, like an hour and 10 minutes according to my timer. Yeah, this was really good. In case I didn't properly explain it earlier, Blue Crown is a book in the Green Glass House series, which is a series of books that they all take place in the same world, but aside from the first two, I don't think you necessarily need to read them in any particular order. The third one follows Lucy Blue Crown and her family. They're the people who built the house and they never lived in it, which is briefly mentioned in one of the previous books. But this is basically the story of why and what happened. I liked it a lot, but I didn't like it as much as the other two. The other two were much more mystery based, and this one was it was a lot more adventurous, which is still cool, but just different. So basically, Lucy's father is the captain of a ship. She has lived on a ship her whole life, but she is meant to be settling down with her stepmother and her stepbrother and living in Green Glass House, what is to be known as Green Glass House. To read the back of the book, when Lucy's little brother is kidnapped by two time travelers in search of a magic only he possesses, she gets more adventure than she bargained for in her fight to save him. My only real complaint is that if it's on the back of the book, typically it's something that happens fairly early on in the book, but the actual kidnapping did not happen until like halfway through. So there's a lot of lead up to when the story kicks off. Most of it is Lucy being upset that she is not allowed to stay on the ship with her father. One of my favorite parts about Kate Milford's books is that they are sort of interwoven with each other. They all exist in the same world, and you can find reoccurring characters across her books. And apparently the time travelers in this book are main characters in another book that she's written, but I have not read that book. So, but yeah, I'd probably give this like 4 stars. You got a lot of little tidbits of things and sort of like the origins of things that exist in the first 2 Green Glass House books. So I thought that was neat. Yeah, that's Blue Crown. So now we get to figure out what we're gonna read next. We got a few options. So I briefly mentioned these earlier. This is super cute. I am almost halfway. This is basically about a couple of kids who live in this small village in a fantasy world. It's a fantasy book, and they're not allowed to leave. One day when they are exploring the borders of this village, they discover sort of a magical map and awaken this magical being who is meant to protect the valley where they live. The magical creature, who is called a memory, M-E-M-R-I, needs their help to save the area. That's about as far as I've gotten. Yeah, I'm kind of tempted to read this because I'm already in the middle of it and I could crank it out pretty fast. And then the other option, which I just grabbed, is A Killing Cold by Kate Alice Marshall. So far I've read all of Kate Alice Marshall's adult books except for this one. It takes place in a snowy cabin, I believe. It's a thriller. I love thrillers that take place in the snow when there's like a snowstorm and people are kind of isolated. That's my favorite kind of thriller, and this seems like it'll be one of those, so I'm very excited about it. I kind of want to read something fast. And for some reason, it is just fully IKEA colors. I think I'm gonna finish Mapmakers and the Lost Magic, and then I'm gonna start A Killing Cold by Kate Alice Marshall, because I can probably finish this in like less than an hour. So might as well. Real quick, I just finished the Mapmakers. I thought it was super cute and had a really good message also, which is something that I love about middle grade books, is that they usually have like a strong theme or message. Like, this is very much about finding a sense of community when you feel lost and reconnecting with the land that you come from. But now, even though it's tempting to just jump right into the second one, I think I'm gonna save them for when I really need them. I accidentally reset my timer, but I did the math before I did, and we are at 1.5 hours. That is it. I think I underestimated how fast I read. It doesn't help that I got kind of a late start today. I think next I'm gonna start Killing Cold. I am going to go move into the living room and read in there. I have high hopes for this. The mail's here. I got it. This box smells like a truck. Oh, I'm excited. Yarr. This is the Phoebe Bridgers hoodie that I have been wanting for so long. It's got a really cool dragon on the back. There's moons and stars on the sleeves. Oh, I'm so excited. It kind of smells good. It kind of smells like laundry detergent. That's like something I really love about buying stuff off Depop, is you get to smell other people's laundry detergent. And I know that sounds super weird, but some laundry detergent smells so good. And I usually use unscented because I have like skin problems. I'm excited. Thank you for joining me for Hoodie Arrives in the Mail. Let's get back to reading. I just finished this book. I really loved it. I haven't been keeping a consistent timer because I found that it's easier for me to stop it and then start it fresh when I sit down to read. I've done some addition and I'm at the 1 hour 52 minute mark for today, which feels like it has to be wrong. Like, did I read half of a book in less than 2 hours? I mean, I have been timing myself, so I don't normally pay attention to how fast I read, and I think I might read faster than I thought I did. I also have no concept of time. On the topic of this book, I really loved this. Normally with thrillers, I feel like it can go one of two ways. Either I find myself just being excited to be along for the ride, very easy to please, or I can be very nitpicky. Because there have definitely been times when I've read a thriller and been like, this was terrible, blah, 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 so predictable, blah, blah, blah. I think a lot of the times with thrillers and mysteries, you kind of have to suspend your disbelief and like let yourself smooth brain. And I do think that I picked up on a few of these twists, but I kind of like being able to piece parts of it together. This was just a really fun time. There's a lot of like weird rich people family drama. It does take place in a snowstorm, which is one of my all-time favorite thriller tropes. Looking on my shelf right now at the other snowstorm thriller that I have. You are just being so sweet. The cutest kitty in the whole world. I honestly can't remember if I told you what this is about. So just in case, I'm gonna tell you now. Basically, this book is about Theo, who meets this guy named Connor. He has a rich family. They basically own a whole mountain, and they have this massive lodge and a bunch of little cabins around it on the property. She goes with him to stay at his family's lodge. They're very difficult to impress. They clearly have a lot of weird stuff going on. Another thing about Theo is that she was adopted as a child, and she has no memory from anything before she was adopted. Why is that relevant, you may ask? Well, Theo's hanging out at the lodge. She steps away to get away from everyone into one of the abandoned cabins, and while she's looking around, she finds a picture of herself as a child. And this just solidified Kate Alice Marshall as one of my favorite thriller authors. She does a lot of characters with like memory problems. Kind of all of her books have that. You know, she knows her niche. She knows what she's doing. She does a good job at it. I thought the ending was good. Kind of rushed, but very believable to me. This was a wild ride, honestly. There was a lot of stuff where it got so much crazier than I expected it to. I also felt like the writing was really good. Yeah, this was super engaging, a quick read. It wasn't completely a smooth brain book. Whatever she writes, like I can picture it so clearly in my mind. The pacing, I thought it was paced really well. I appreciate books that respect your time. I'm probably gonna give it 5 stars because a 5-star thriller is a 5-star thriller, you know what I mean? I definitely recommend this. I thought it was really, really good. I really want to read some of Kate Alice Marshall's young adult books. Honestly, I think I just like anything that she writes. I think I might start reading Map Makers and the Enchanted Mountain. It's the second Map Makers book. Okay, say bye, Otis. Otis is on me and I can't move. I finished this graphic novel. It took me about half an hour to read. It was super cute. I think I like the first one just a tad more. I'm really excited to have the third book. I'm definitely going to be finishing this series tomorrow, most likely. Oh, I also forgot to mention, I listened to about an hour of my Witches book by Stacy Schiff on audio while I did a round of dishes and tidied up a little. This is probably the last time I'm going to check in tonight, and I'll let you know where we end up tomorrow when I see you. See you night-night to Otis. I am trying to figure out what book I want to read next because it's the next day. So basically I have almost 16 hours still. I might pick up The Bear and the Nightingale. I feel like this is the perfect time of year to read this because it's another like sort of snowy book. Supposedly this is like a dark lyrical fairy tale, and that is just the kind of thing that I'm obsessed with. I don't know, I feel like I'm already in the middle of so many series. I really don't need another one. I thought about Murder in the Family by Kara Hunter. I think it's in the form of a podcast. Like it looks like a script and there's like text messages and other like documents and stuff, and that's how the story's told, and that sounds very cool. I love that kind of thing. Also, I feel like I want to read books that are not super long, like pretty easy to read, but at the same time I really need to soak up a lot of time today, so preferably something engaging. I think I want to read Murder in the Family. Even though it's another thriller and I just finished reading a thriller, it's a very different style of format, so I think that will be okay. Let's try it. I definitely see why people do it across a full like 24 hours, one day to the next, and just read as much as possible, because trying to keep track of it is really hard. I feel like I would rather read all night and mess up my sleep schedule than try to keep track of this much time, especially because I have to film on my phone. So I've been editing and I realized I never actually explain this, but the reason why filming on my phone makes this challenge so difficult is that I use the timer on my phone to keep track of how long I've been reading. I can't set my phone far away and be filming myself and also be messing with my timer. Basically, the whole reason why I keep talking about that is that it just made it really difficult to go back and forth between the two. Hello, I'm back. It is currently the end of what would be day 4 of the 24-hour reading vlog. This has turned out to be a lot harder than I anticipated. I've been getting really frustrated with filming on my phone. I've felt this way for a while, but I think that since I started filming this video, it's felt extra prevalent just because there are so many things that I can't do when I am using my phone as a camera. There's just so many little things. I'm really, really ready to upgrade, but it's hard because cameras are expensive, especially if you want one that is like good. I did grab a tripod, a little mini phone tripod that I'm borrowing from Miles. That has been cool. I should have done that sooner, honestly. I've just been getting really frustrated. Yesterday I meant to film and read, and instead I basically just researched cameras for 6 hours. When I get hyper focused on something, I have a really hard time tearing myself away from it, like to the point that I'll be doing it and thinking to myself, I don't want to do this anymore, I don't want to do this anymore, but it's like I am stuck and I can't break out of it. And like at first, I was having a really great time researching cameras. I love a good research project. And after a certain point, I just found myself getting more and more frustrated because like I know what I want to make. I have the ideas in my head and I feel like I am being held back because I'm very limited in what I can do with my phone and my phone camera. I also know like this is a very small channel. I am mostly making these videos for my own personal enjoyment because I think it's fun and I love doing it, and like things that I want to be able to do with film. I want to like tell a story, but currently it just feels like I don't have the ability to do the things that I really want to do. And it's frustrating because when I put together a video, I can see areas that I want to improve, which is a good thing. I think it's always good to be aware of those things, but it's also frustrating because there are certain things that I cannot fix right now. I have this tripod now. I'm gonna see how that works. It's just, I'm feeling frustrated and a little bit sad. It feels so good to be inspired and to want to be making stuff, and it's frustrating to see where I want to go with it and not really be able to do those things. We always have to have at least one clip of me just rambling on about stuff, right? I have read this book a little bit more. It's really cool how it's told in like news articles and like transcripts. It's sort of written in the style like it's meant to be a script basically from a documentary. It's pretty interesting. I feel like I thought it would be a quick read, but it actually does take some time because there are parts where it's very descriptive. It's like setting up what the documentary looks like, essentially. The dialogue sections I read super fast. The more descriptive sections, there's just a lot of details, so I definitely feel like I'm reading those slower because I'm trying to like take it all in. It's not a book where I feel like I need to sit there and read through the entire thing and I'm not gonna be able to rest until I find out what happens. But we still have, you know, like 400 pages, so we'll figure it out. I don't know how long this vlog is gonna go on, but I'm committed at this point. I am going to keep filming until I have read for 24 hours, and we will see how long that takes. How many days will it take before I've read for 24 hours? I'll let you know if I end up reading more. I'll definitely see you tomorrow. We're still in this. I'm not giving up. We'll see if I regret that later on. this book, it's starting to pick up a bit more. I really like that it's split into the different episodes and it's basically like the transcript. It's starting to get kind of interesting and a little bit like cringe at some point. Like, it's a little cheesy the way the dialogue is written, but it does feel like a slightly cheesy true crime show. In the show, there are 6 experts. Some of them are like forensic scientists, some of them are police detectives. They're mostly British, and then there's a couple American ones. The one female forensic scientist keeps making these jokes. The most recent thing that just happened is she's like, "Thanks for the man-descension, Hugo." Like, condescension, but man-descension? I don't know. I've never heard of that before. I've heard of mansplaining. I don't know. It's just funny things like that. There was also a scene where one of the British investigators and one of the American investigators were in a car together, and the American guy keeps saying really stupid things. Like, he keeps being like, "Well, I just don't understand the way you Brits do these things. Like, I'll never get used to these, like, circle road things." And the other guy's like, "You mean a roundabout?" I'm like, okay, first of all, we have roundabouts in America. I mean, I know the author is British. Is this how you guys see us? Are we just like, "Yeehaw, I've never been in a roundabout before"? It's funny, but I don't think it's supposed... I don't know. In between the chapters that's like the transcript, it'll sometimes show text messages and like basically like a Reddit thread talking about, of like fans talking about the episode. But it's kind of weird to be seeing like fabricated reviews for like a transcript that has been written by the author of this book, but then she's also written the commentary on people commenting on the story. I don't know. And like all the comments are just people being like, "Wow, that was so great, ha ha ha." I'm assuming that maybe they will play into the evidence eventually one way or another, and we might see how that turns out. But yeah, I am liking it, but those are just a couple thoughts that I had. Like, the man dissension thing brought me out of the story again, and I had to say something. And obviously we hate mansplaining and man dissension. This book came out in like, I don't know when. They keep talking about Snapchat. Didn't have Snapchat in 2003 like the kids these days do. Is Snapchat like a bigger thing in the UK or something? Because I feel like I never hear people talk about Snapchat anymore. This came out in 2023, so I don't know. I haven't been on Snapchat in years, so maybe I'm wrong and Snapchat is all the rage. Yeah, I don't know. Just a couple thoughts that I had. The next day, I am about to go in the shower, but I was reading for a second and I just have to update you. I took notes, but they're on my phone, so I can't look at them. But I don't know, this book, it's starting to get on my nerves. I feel like it might translate better to audiobook. I don't know if this audiobook is full cast, but since there's so many different characters, the audiobook might be the way to go with reading this one. Reading the transcript gets very repetitive. Just like the way they write the actions, it's just the same stuff over and over again. Holding up their hands, holding up his hands. It's like, okay, how many times are people gonna hold up their hands defensively? Don't come for me. Too many, in my opinion. The dialogue feels very unrealistic. Like, when they are just investigating, it's fine and going over the facts and stuff, but as soon as the characters start to interact with each other, it is so cheesy. There was a big confrontation in the group. The characters were kind of like frustrated with each other, and then Lila says, "Well, that escalated quickly." And I'm just like, is this show airing on the CW? This transcript from this show? Because that's the energy that it's giving. It's like making me feel secondhand embarrassment for these people who are fictional characters and not real. I think I was expecting this to be just a tad more serious. I also don't think it being this silly goofy was intentional. Maybe it was? It feels like it's taking itself very seriously to me. I'm really glad that there are character bios for each of the characters at the beginning of this book, because I genuinely can't keep track of who's who. I'm almost done with the book and I still have to keep like flipping back to the front. It's just a lot to keep track of. They kind of all have the same personality. There's not, aside from the American guy being American, all of the other guys kind of act and talk the same, so it's hard to distinguish them. I don't know. I mean, I'm still gonna finish it. I'm very close to the end, but it's just a little bit disappointing. I'm hoping to finish this tonight. We'll see how that goes. I gotta go get ready for work now. Bye-bye. god. Yes, we finished this last night. Well, I did. You did whatever you were doing. I have many thoughts. Most of them I feel like I've kind of already touched on. This was fine. It wasn't bad. I didn't hate it. I did rate it 2 stars on Goodreads, which I feel like is a little bit mean. Like, it's probably like a 2.5. I don't think it's super worth your time. And it's very long. Almost 500 pages. Things don't even really start happening until over the halfway point. I do think that the American guy being such an obnoxious stereotype, it just annoyed me. I don't know anything about this author. I feel like she's perhaps never met an American person in her life. Or maybe she was just going off the stereotype of NYPD retired cop, which is who this guy was. But I think maybe that's just it. All of the characters felt very stereotyped, but at the same time they weren't written distinct enough from one another to be able to really like keep track of who was who, at least for me. I've already kind of said this, but like the dialogue, when they were just talking about the case and going over that, it was fine. When they were talking to each other, I feel like the dialogue really suffered. Like, it just felt so cheesy. Multiple times somebody would be like, well, that was awkward. I'm like, I think part of it is because I was so intrigued by the concept of reading it with transcripts. Like, I thought it was gonna be more like documents and stuff from the case, and you could kind of read the documents and put 2 and 2 together, but it was more so just like texts between the 2 sisters and emails back and forth between the experts working on the case. I also think that who it wound up being at the end, I was not super impressed by that twist, and I also was not very impressed by the twist at the very end within the last couple of pages. In fact, I kind of couldn't tell what was going on, and I had to go back and reread it because I was like, what? Excuse me? What is going on? They can't all be winners. So that's fine. I thought that we could talk about possibly what I'm gonna read next, because I still have to figure it out. But first, we need to check in about where we are in the challenge. We are on day 7, and we still have 7 hours and 10 minutes left. I feel as though I might have made a mistake. I did not realize how many hours 24 hours is. I didn't realize that like a lot of the people who do the challenge like this with the timer probably don't have a job where they have to leave their house. Like, they probably get paid to read books all day, which is amazing. Like, goals, honestly. And I'm not saying any shade towards those people whatsoever. I think I messed up a little. I don't know why I thought that reading for 24 hours, like from one day to the next, would be harder than timing myself every time I read. I was severely misguided, and if I ever do another one of these, I will just be pulling an all-nighter. But alas, here we are on day 7, and most likely with a couple more days in sight. I do not think I'm gonna be reading 7 hours and 10 minutes today. I thought we could talk about some of the books that I have near me. Not this one, sorry. I started reading the 3rd Mapmaker's book, as you probably saw. I'm probably gonna finish that in like half an hour, so I'll read that next. Also, really need to get to some Les Mis, because I promised myself that I was gonna read some of this during this vlog, and so far I have not. So that's what I'm gonna try to do. Probably gonna dig into some of this today for sure. I do have this book, The Autists, that I really want to read. This is gonna be one of those books that hits super hard, and I'm just gonna read it very fast. This might be a good one to pick up as my next main book while I'm chipping away at this. So there's that. And I think that's everything. Essentially, this book was all right. We're still doing it. We're not giving up. Enjoy this day, whatever day you're having, wherever you are. New day, same hoodie. I wish there was a way I could like lie to you and cut this so that I wasn't doing this for so many days, because at this point I'm just, I mean, honestly, I'm having a good time. I hope you're having a good time too. I have been reading The Autists. So for some reason I thought it was going to be a memoir, and it does have some stuff like that, but it's mostly just a history of women and autism. Like, it goes through the evolution of people's beliefs when it comes to that, I guess. It's different than I expected, but I'm still liking it a lot. I actually switched over to reading it on my Kindle because I wanted to highlight it, and obviously it is a library book, so I could not highlight it. I'm about halfway through. I know this is a book specifically about women and autism. That makes sense, because there has always been this weird stigma that women can't be autistic, or that especially high-masking autistic women do not exist, which is why so many people were not diagnosed until they were in their 20s or later. And because the diagnostic criteria is to that of a small 8-year-old boy, which is not helpful for all of us. But I do sort of wish that the language was a little more inclusive. I just want to be like, what about non-binary people or people who are assigned female at birth? And I know that's probably a question for a different person in a different book, and that's fine. It's just something that I've been thinking about while reading this. I think that part of it for me is that, like, I really wish that everything wasn't so gendered, like, in general. Because girls have gone unnoticed for so long, I understand why they're splitting it that way, because they're trying to emphasize. I just wish that someday we could get to a point where we stop dividing it like that and we can just be like, everyone experiences it differently. I think we're heading towards that point. Obviously, I am not an expert. That's why I am reading and learning. Yeah, basically, the TLDR of this conversation is I'm enjoying this. I wish that the language was a little bit more gender inclusive. Yeah, I'm gonna keep reading it. I didn't film at all yesterday because yesterday was just a really nice day. It was sunny and I picked up some library books. I was like, I want to read poetry and eat food. That's just such a good feeling. Yesterday was just for me, and that I think is a good thing. You gotta have some days that are just for you. Oh yeah, also, I wanted to tell you, we're getting pretty close. Like, I haven't filmed a ton, but I have still been reading, and I didn't do this on purpose, I swear. We are exactly 4 hours and 20 minutes away from being done with the reading challenge. This is what I've been doing, is just writing it on the whiteboard and erasing it and updating it as the day goes on. So it could be one more day, it could be 4 more days. I'm really trying to finish it today. Not that I haven't loved hanging out with you guys, but I need to edit this and do some other things. So I'm gonna go get ready for the day and I'll be back. We have 2 hours, 43 minutes left. Basically planning on just reading this until I'm done with the challenge. So let's do it. I apologize because the dishwasher is running. I started listening to the audiobook while I was doing some dishes and laundry. I had to go back and highlight some stuff because the writing, like, this is what, like, blew me freaking away. Okay. If there is one thing that is horrifying, if there exists a reality that is worse than any dream, it is this: to live, to see the sun, to be in the prime of manhood, to have health and happiness, to laugh bravely, to rush towards the glory that lies ahead of you, to feel in your breast breathing lungs, a beating heart, a reasoning will, to speak, think, hope, love, to have a mother, to have a wife, to have children, to have light, and all at once, in the time it takes to cry out, in less than a minute, to plunge into an abyss, to fall, tumble, crush, be crushed, to see ears of wheat, flowers, leaves, branches, not to be able to catch hold of anything, to feel your sword is useless, with men beneath you, horses on top of you, to struggle in vain, your bones broken by a kick in the dark, to feel a heel burst your eyeballs, to bite frantically on horseshoes, to suffocate, yell, writhe, to be buried, and to say to yourself, a moment ago I was alive. Oh my god. If the audio of me reading that over the dishwasher was horrendous, I will adjust. It's been like a few months since I picked this book up and I forgot how much I love it. The writing, it's so good. The Battle of Waterloo, this is about a battle obviously. Like, you just read this whole chapter about this battle, and it's very, like, historical. There's a lot of facts. It's kind of, at least I was having a hard time keeping track of everything. But then you get to that part at the very end, and it's just, like, the humanness of it all. I also finished The Autists last night, and I have ruminated on it. I want to give you my thoughts, but I'm going to wait and do it not right now. I just had to read you that quote. Like, I had to. I'm so happy that I'm reading this. I'm definitely not finishing this tonight, but we're finishing this challenge today. We are going to do it. The good news is that we currently have 45 minutes of the reading challenge, and we are just gonna go to town with Les Mis, finish it off. I promised you a book review for The Autists, so let me just do that real quick. There was a lot about it that I enjoyed. I really liked the examination of autism in women throughout history and how that, like, presented through types of art throughout the times. I wasn't expecting that at all, and that was really cool. Like, it talks about a couple specific statues and, like, paintings and stuff. There are also a lot of, like, historical figures that are women that are now suspected to be autistic, which I also didn't know, so that was cool. I feel like there were some things that I learned about myself, which is always a fun time. But ultimately, I also really felt like the book was very, I mean, gendered, obviously. Some of the language was a little too gendered for me. It made me kind of uncomfortable. I felt like for a book that was talking about stereotypes, it also kind of leaned into stereotypes a little bit, and that just felt kind of contradictory and made me feel weird. It just didn't feel very inclusive, which is something that bothers me. Like, she doesn't talk about queer people at all, doesn't talk about trans women or women of color. It's very clear that this book is about white, cisgendered, most likely straight women. I just felt like it could have been slightly improved a little bit in that area, especially since this book came out like last year. It's also translated, so I'm not sure how much the translation impacts that, but I did like it. I feel like I got a lot out of it. I think it's probably still worth a read. I just think it's definitely not as inclusive or intersectional as it could have been. I'm basically saying everything I said in my Goodreads review, but less good, less well. I don't feel very eloquent at the moment. Yeah. It is nighttime. I'm exhausted. I had a great time hanging out with you, but I am ready. I'm ready to move on. I'm ready to do some other things. The other reason why I need to finish this today is because they are releasing The Sims 2 on PC tomorrow morning. And tomorrow, all I'm gonna do when I get home is play The Sims. That's all I'm gonna do. I might even download it before work and play it before work tomorrow. That is my plan. Yeah, that's about it. I'm gonna go read. I'll check back in once we're done, because we are almost done. I'm so proud of us. Do we need to slap the book once for good measure? Hell yeah. Okay, let's do it. We did it. We did it. It is done. With that, the last 45 minutes we have read for 24 hours. I feel like Frodo and Sam after throwing the ring into the fires of Mount Doom. It only took us 11 days. We read a lot of books. We read some nonfiction. We read some fiction. I don't actually know how many books we read. How many books did we read? I'll put it on the screen. Highlights include A Killing Cold by Kate Alice Marshall, and the graphic novels I really enjoyed, and Les Mis coming in at the last minute for being really enjoyable and good. With that, I am gonna leave you. I'll see you next time. Thanks so much for being here, especially if you made it this far. I feel like we just went on a whole journey together. And I'll see you next time. Bye.